Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scot Reisch of Crime Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we have an interview with Amber Loves Mystery. Now, Amber has a great YouTube channel, and she does a great job of highlighting missing persons cases as well as unsolved mysteries. We'll put a link to her YouTube page below, but hopefully you enjoy the interview. It's just a couple of people sitting around chatting about cases, and I hope you enjoy. Mystery as our guest. First of all, thank you for taking your time out of your busy day to speak with us. Thank you.
It's my honor. Honestly, I'm a huge fan.
Well, I appreciate that.
I honestly watch every single night while I'm cooking dinner. I just listen to your show. So,
well, thank you very much. I've been watching your videos as well. And, give me a quick bio. Give me a rundown. How did you get into true crime and what made you want to talk about it on YouTube?
Honestly, my obsession with true crime, I think, started when I was maybe 10 or 12 and I discovered Nancy Drew books. And I really wanted to be like her dad. I think his name was Carson, and he was a criminal defense attorney. And then I wanted to be in the CIA. And I don't know, I just got obsessed with true crime in that manner. And then in 2016 or 17, I was going through some things. And I used to be a daily vlogger and a beauty channel. And I stopped doing that. And then I discovered this whole true crime genre on YouTube. And I was just a bell went off in my head. And I was like, I want to do this. I can do this. And so I started to cover cases in Malibu, where I was living at the time. And I don't know, I love it. I love talking about cases. I love bringing awareness to cases. There was a girl that went missing. Her name was Leah Rose Altman. And I worked very closely with her mother, and probably 2 or 3 weeks after my video went live about her disappearance, she was found. And so after that, I really was like, okay, this is important, to bring awareness. Not that my video brought her home or whatever, but it felt kind of like it helped a little bit. So
that's interesting how you got into true crime, because there's always that one influence. You said it was Nancy Drew books. I think the one moment where I thought, wow, I'd really like to, be a lawyer and do something good was To Kill a Mockingbird. Did you ever see that movie? I mean, honestly, the book has been around, but the movie is great.
I've seen parts of it. I don't really like black and white films. I'm ashamed that I haven't watched it all, but I know it's a great movie, and I know it's moved a lot of people into that career.
Yeah, I think it's. I know it's in black and white and it's old, but
yeah,
it's really good. Or if you see it in the theater, it's also very good, and the book is great as well. But it just shows you the guy that everybody hates, but he's kind of there. Everyone knows it's necessary. They like him when he can help them out, but how could you represent this terrible person today? And, that kind of thing. So I just, I recommend that anyone who thinks they want to be a lawyer, they should watch that movie, because can you represent the guy that everybody hates?
See, that's one thing. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's one thing about criminal defense attorneys. I've always found it so fascinating how you can represent people, for example, somebody represented Jodi Arias or Casey Anthony, but you explain it really good in some of the videos that you talk about. It's your job to give them the best and most fair representation, and it doesn't necessarily mean I don't know.
Yeah, everybody.
You explain it really well.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks that as a criminal defense attorney that you somehow think that whatever your client did, you're somehow condoning it.
Right.
And first, sometimes your client didn't do anything wrong. He's just been accused of doing very bad things. Mm-hmm. And so to just assume, oh, how could that person, how can you represent somebody? And I've told people that, I used to get asked all the time, how can you represent guilty people? Well, frankly, those are the easy ones. It's the ones where you truly believe that somebody's been accused wrongfully of something and you think that they're innocent. Those are the scariest. Those are the ones that truly keep you up at night and make you wonder, have I done everything? Because I also believe that the truth, or a pretty darn close version of the truth, will come out from the beginning of the process towards the, whether it's jury trial or guilty plea or something. But it doesn't bother me at all. And maybe after 25 years, I'm just cold and heartless, I guess. But I don't think I am. But everybody deserves a defense. I mean, it's in the Constitution of the United States of America, and the founding fathers put that in there because they knew that people in positions of power would abuse that power. And they said, we're not going to stand for that. We're going to make sure that you have a right to an attorney, because the king used to make an allegation, throw people in jail, wouldn't give them a trial, wouldn't give them a speedy trial, wouldn't let them have an attorney. And they said, we're not going to do that. And it wasn't ratified until the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments that gave those guarantees to everybody. And everybody hates them until they need them. And I just can't imagine why anybody would give up those rights for anything,
It's funny you say that, because you do mention that a lot. Like, people are against, defending people like that until you actually need one yourself. And there are two cases that I'm currently looking into to cover on my channel right now. And one is of Ryan Ferguson. I don't know if you've heard of Ryan Ferguson.
Not familiar with that off the top of my head.
In 2001, he was 17 years old, and him and another friend were accused of murdering this sports. I think he was like a sports writer for some newspaper, and he was found on Halloween night, basically dead in the parking lot. And there was an eyewitness that put these two boys there, and then one of the boys actually admitted to being there, but it turns out they were never there. The one kid was kind of had like mental issues. And so 10 years later, Ryan Ferguson actually won an $11 million lawsuit against the police and everything, because he was completely innocent. He was like an all-American kid, just the best family. His dad was his biggest, like the biggest moving piece in getting him exonerated. And then there's another case out here in Arizona. Oh my gosh, his name is also Ryan. His name was Ryan Waller, and he was at home with his girlfriend, who was 21. He was 18, and his ex-roommate broke into the house with his father. And the reason he was his ex-roommate was because he had hit on his girlfriend, and so they had some kind of falling out. So he made him move out. So he comes in to seek revenge with his father. He shoots Ryan in the face twice, and then shoots the girlfriend, and then thinks they're both dead. So then Ryan's dad comes a couple days later, because it's Christmas time, and he doesn't show up for Christmas dinner. And the police, the Phoenix Police Department, find the girl passed away. And then they see Ryan, and for some miraculous, he's like still alive somehow. He's been shot in the face, but he's still alive. And he kind of just looks like he's beat up. And so rather than have him examined for the trauma that he's went through or whatever, they put him in the back of a cop car for 6 hours, and then they interrogate him for 44 minutes till they finally realize that he's been shot in the eye, basically. And as each moment goes by, he's losing, basically he has the mental capacity of probably a 5 or 6 year old.
Yeah.
And he does end up losing both of his eyes. And then 10 years later, he passes away from a seizure that was related to the brain trauma that happened.
Yeah.
They treated him like a criminal when he was a victim. And that's scary. Scary.
No, I mean, it happens. And, we all like to think the police, and we hope the police do the correct thing. But sometimes they get it wrong. They get it really wrong. Oh, and, it's, you talk about these cases. I mean, these kind of cases happen all the time, but they don't necessarily make the evening news. They don't make the national news, where everybody follows and hangs on every, word of what's going to, every court appearance. This is everyday stuff, and it's important. And I think in today's world that everybody has become or can become someone important to help bring light to cases that need to be brought to light, or help find evidence, or help in the case that you mentioned where this woman is missing. Where did she go? And play a part in doing that. It's not just you have to wait for the police to do their investigation work. We can all provide something in the internet age and ring doorbells and things like that. Who knows what people have and what information they have? It's I don't know. I just think it's very interesting the time that we live in, and like the case you just talked about, where you hope the police get it right. But, they interrogate the guy that's been shot in the head for 6 hours. Like, what the hell are they thinking?
Right. Well, they looked at him and, you can't really tell from CCTV footage or whatever the camera is in the interrogation. It's not great. But, I mean, he's clearly been wounded. And at the very least, he should have been examined. Even if he was just beat up. They thought they got into an altercation, the girlfriend and the boyfriend. And then he shot her. But the whole time he's answering questions, like, he's just not making sense. And if you watch the interrogation, it makes you literally want to cry, because you can see that he's just struggling, and all he's saying is, I just want to go back to sleep. I just want to go back to bed. I mean, he wasn't acting like someone that just shot someone. He was acting like someone that needed medical attention.
Yeah.
And then, but let me tell you, when the police officer or the detective interrogating him, finally something clicked, his mannerism changed like that. Like, the guy Ryan kept putting his feet up on the table, and then the detective kept saying, take your feet off of my table, blah, blah, blah. But then when he realized he was possibly injured and they might be held liable, which, the parents ended up not suing the police department because they said it's not going to bring her son back anyway. So what's the point? But his demeanor was instantly changed. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to see.
It's always about the money.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I mean, that's the only thing that deters oftentimes, whether it's a company that doesn't want to do the right thing, or a police department that doesn't want to do the right thing, is they have to get sued and they have to pay lots of money. And then finally they'll start saying, hey, we can't do this because it's going to cost us a lot of money. Or until somebody starts costing someone their job. We had a case here in Denver. It was just yesterday. Police officers roughed up a kid 10 years ago, where they thought that he was involved in an altercation down in Lodo, which is kind of the party where all the bars are downtown. And they roughed him up pretty good. The police officer was terminated, but now after a 10-year legal battle, the cop is going to be reinstated and going to get, the two of them are probably going to get close to $600,000 in back pay over the last 10 years. And the kid that was roughed up, no charges were ever filed. His dad was a police officer down in Colorado Springs and was just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is ridiculous.
Wow.
And that's what I've said this. Police officers, most of them are very good. There are some detectives, if something happened to someone in my family, I would want them working on a case. There's one detective here in Denver. He's retired now. He was the best. And if you knew if you had a case with him, it was going to be thoroughly investigated. And I did a cold case. It was this last case right before he retired. It was a 22-year-old cold case, horrific facts. And he went back and he re-interviewed people and talked to people, and he got 3 murder convictions out of that case just by going back and talking to these people over and over again and seeing what was new. Because before, someone's like, oh, you don't want to talk? Okay, see you, bye. They just didn't have time for it. Nobody cared. The people, they didn't think they were that important. But most of the police officers are very, very good. But I've always said this. The bad thing about the police officers is that, for attorneys, if somebody screws up, the attorneys will throw another attorney under the bus. They're just like, that's one less competitor out there for us. But the cops, they don't care how bad what they did. They're going to defend that guy to the ends of the earth. He did no wrong. You had to be in this situation. And so 10 years later, the guy gets his job back, that we were talking about. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating when you see stuff like that. It's like the good ones, they need to police themselves, and they don't do that. Like attorneys, attorneys get in trouble, boot them out. Cops, he wasn't that bad of a guy. I mean, it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
So what other cases are you following right now, or do you find interesting? What about stuff in the headlines these days? Do you?
Well, obviously the Lori Vallow case is just that. I mean, and that's another one that's sort of in Arizona too, because
the brother.
the brother, Alex Cox. Like you said, like I said, I do watch your videos, and you did refer to her as like the Black Widow, and this woman is scary, in my opinion. Everybody around her is passing away mysteriously, and somehow she's not being held accountable. Or, I mean, now they're investigating it, but I don't get it. I don't get how she's constantly laughing and smiling and acting like, I mean, she's seriously acting like she knows she's going to be okay. And I just don't know what confidence, what is moving this confidence. Like, is she truly innocent? Are the kids somewhere off with, I don't know, like relatives? I doubt it. But
well, you would think somebody would have brought them forward, even if they had some remote, the world is coming to an end camp that they're going to hang out on until, their day comes in July, I guess.
Right.
That somebody would say, hey, let her go so she can come join us for the ends of the earth kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. And, just when you think you've seen it all, somebody comes up with some other little twist. So I don't know on this one, but like you said, she just looks a little too confident in her demeanor in court. Like, oh, there's no big deal. Okay, if $1 million bond, okay, but nobody's posted it yet.
She's so just passé about it all. I don't understand.
And like I said, her brother, passes away, but of course he's killed husband number 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I do think that possibly the kids were eliminated, hopefully not, but because they were there when that happened. And maybe, I mean, everybody that may have witnessed Alex murder her husband or her ex-husband, all the witnesses are gone now. I don't know, but it's weird. It's weird. And then the whole doomsday thing is a strange element to it. Chad Daybell is like, what is he thinking? I don't know. It's unsettling.
I mean, not to get to, he marries, he marries Lori Vallow, now Lori Daybell, 2 weeks after his wife dies.
Mysteriously,
unexpectedly.
Yeah.
How convenient. And just happens to get the check for $430,000.
Well, and before that, didn't she say that someone had pulled a gun, or she thought it was a BB gun previously? I had read that before she actually passed away, she had an incident where she thought someone was pulling a gun out on her, and she thought it was like a trick or a prank or something like that. I don't know if you saw that.
I don't know if I've read that account. I know that there were lots of the ex-husbands had lots of incidents with the brother, but it wouldn't surprise me in this situation. I mean, it's just weird. And
it is so weird.
Like he must, I mean, not to get too crude or something, but she must have just rocked his world to say like, hey, you know what? That was pretty good. I think I'm going to kill my wife, and we're going to run off to Hawaii and get married together 2 weeks after that.
Right.
And don't worry, I'll spend all my money on you. But maybe a little separation has brought him out of the love coma that he's in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It makes no sense, but we'll see how things continue on. They're going to have to, prove it. They're going to have to say that the children are neglected or abandoned. And I'm not sure how they do that other than saying, okay, they're disappeared, but okay, you can't say where they are. You can't say if they're completely healthy and with other relatives, or they ran away. The 17-year-old Tylee took JJ and ran away. I didn't abandon anybody. They ran away.
In your experience, though, obviously you've seen a lot more cases than I have, but what do you think makes law enforcement or a prosecutor deem a child as deceased, similar to some of the other cases that are currently in the news? The Evelyn, do you know what case I'm talking about? Stop. Yeah. Well, there's a couple.
Evelyn, Evelyn Boswell. I was having a brain freeze.
Well, I don't know if that's the one where they found the
they
body?
found her in Tennessee in the outbuilding.
Okay. Well, but then there's another one that's in the media right now where there is no body. Like, what do you think? There's no bodies for the Lori Vallow's children. So why do sometimes they think that the kids are immediately deceased and then they try and charge for murder versus she's just getting charged for neglect? Or
so if you look at, I think it's very difficult to prosecute a case without a body. Can it be done? Mm-hmm. Yes. Look at the Patrick Frazee matter down in Park County here in Colorado. No body, but you basically had an eyewitness come and testify and say, there was a body there, we burned it, and I can tell you she's deceased. So that makes it much more possible. But if you have no eyewitnesses, and that's why, a lot of people think, well, they're missing, just charge them with murder. How can they do that? Well, you have to be able to prove it. There's a difference between belief and knowledge and actually knowing it. I believe somebody's deceased, to actually saying, I know they are. Okay, well, how do you know it? Well, I believe it. Well, no, how do you know it? So, you have to have a dead body. And that's why even homicide cases, when you have a body, are difficult because you have to prove it through circumstantial evidence unless it's, there's an eyewitness or, somebody can come in and say, yeah, I was there and they did something bad and now the person is deceased. So it's hard when you don't have that body to say they're actually deceased. That's one of the elements that they have to prove is that a person is gone through, harm from another person's conduct. And if you don't have a body, it's difficult. And so I think on Lori Vallow's case, they look at it and say, we just can't prove that they're dead. There's a lot of evidence to make you want to think that you believe they are, but how do you know it?
Yeah.
And she hasn't made any statements, like, for example, she's talking to them as in the past tense, which we've seen a lot of lately. They act like, oh, they're, it's not, oh, we want to see them in the future. This is going to be great. It's like, oh, they were great kids. Wow. We really had fun.
Yeah.
We'll never see them, no one's made any statements on this stuff. So I think it's just, even on the case down in Colorado Springs, I don't know if you've been following the Gannon, and I always pronounce Gannon Stauch case, Gannon Stauch. Letitia Stauch is the one that was charged with murder. There's no body yet.
Is that the one that also has the weird mother that's also in crime? Or is that the other case?
That's the other case.
Okay, sorry.
This one she had, well,
there's too many involving children.
Letitia Stauch is the stepmom to Gannon Stauch, and the mother was living in South Carolina, but apparently she's had some issues and she's been in rehab and, didn't have primary custody of Gannon. And but once again, they've charged her with no body.
See, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I always find it, I don't know, confusing. And obviously each case is different and each county and state is different.
Yeah, each case is different. The elements are generally the same, but most people don't get charged with murder unless they have a body or they have a confession to say that we got rid of the body.
Mm-hmm. Or motive, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, motive is never, it's not an element that the prosecutor has to prove, but it helps explain to the jury, why somebody would in fact do this. Did they just, lose their stuff this day, or were they, going to inherit money from that? those elements are key, and the prosecutor has to be able to say, I can prove these elements. He or she has an ethical obligation to only take a case that they believe that they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury. And if they can't prove it, they're not supposed to file it. And to file it saying, we're going to file a case and maybe we'll sweat you and we'll break you, or you'll just take a plea bargain to get out of jail, it's they can't do that. Even with the Lori Vallow case,
they can't compel her to produce the kids. I mean,
that's I've probably been asked that question more on the comments on our videos.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why can't they just compel her to do that?
Right.
They can't, in the sense of now they've filed criminal charges, so she has a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. She has a right to counsel. Her attorney, if he's worth his salt, is going to say, we're not saying a thing. You charged it. You prove it. And so they can't compel her to do that. I mean, they had the neglect case, and then they issued the warrant for her for contempt.
Mm-hmm.
But if they bring her back, it's not like the judge can say, okay, I'm going to hold you in direct contempt for doing this. And if there's a penalty that's going to be imposed, then you have to give a right to an attorney. But there's nothing to say that you have to produce your children. I mean, common sense would say, why would you not want to produce your children? Why would you not want them to know that they're healthy and happy and we can just get done with all this? Why would I want to be in custody if that's the case? I mean,
can they hold her in custody until she produces the kids? If that's
if she produced the children, and if they showed up and said, we ran away, but we didn't want mom to get in trouble, or so here we are, I think they would let her go. But at this point, they've got to have a trial. Everywhere has a speedy trial. Mm-hmm. Here in Colorado, it's 6 months from the date that you say not guilty. The federal system, it's 70 days if you're in custody to get you to trial. Idaho's, is very similar. They're going to have to bring her to trial, and they have to prove the case. And just simply saying, she didn't produce her kids, she's abandoned and neglected them, that's a little odd. She doesn't have to prove herself innocent in our criminal justice system.
They have to prove her guilty.
They absolutely have to prove her guilty. The burden never shifts to the defense to prove their innocence. They don't have to do that. And the defense never has to call any witnesses, and they can cross-examine the witnesses that are there. It's like, ma'am, you say she hasn't produced the children. What steps have you taken to find the children? Well, we've done this and this. Okay, have you looked here, here, and here? No, I haven't. So you can't say without certainty that they're not deceased, can you? No, I cannot. Okay, well, sounds like reasonable doubt to me.
It's just weird that, obviously I've not had my baby yet, but if my child was missing, I can't imagine not reporting that to someone, taking steps in action to try and find my kid.
But, and I'll watch your video too, but also and I've mentioned this before, it just goes against human nature that parents don't protect their children. And one is, her stepchild, and one's a biological child. But, you're going to do everything you can to protect your child.
Right.
And
that's another thing I didn't know for a while, that her and, was it not Joseph, Charles are the ones that adopted JJ?
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's Charles. Charles, yeah.
She has so many husbands. It's crazy.
But think about it, and it's been said that a society will be judged by how they treat women and children, and it's not because they're not equal, but how do you treat them? Do you treat people with dignity and respect? Do you protect your young, your children? It's just throughout human nature, throughout the wild, mothers take care of their children. They don't let anything bad happen to them.
Right.
They would give their own life to protect their child. And something contrary to that, maybe some people just aren't wired to be mothers, I guess, or fathers for that sake.
Well, yeah. I mean, you hear of the stories where moms, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but where their kids like under a car and then like find the strength within them to, like move the car.
Yeah, I've heard.
Not necessarily that exactly, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, but the adrenaline's pumping.
Like, mama bear mode, and when you don't see that, it's kind of unsettling. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I mentioned this. I can't remember where I mentioned. Maybe it was an interviewer thing, but there's this show about this woman that she's in advertising. She's having children, and she's out running. She's like, I don't know if I'm going to be a good mom. What can I do? And she's out running on this trail, and as she's running out there, she comes across a bear on the path, and the bear kind of like, I'm going to get her. And she steps in front of the baby stroller and literally is like screams as loud as she can and tells old mama bear, not today,
Yeah.
You're going to have to get through me to get to the kid in the stroller. Yeah. And I thought that perfectly described what most mothers who love their children would do. They're like, you're going to have to come through me to get to this kid. And I'm going to fight like hell to do it and protect him. And like I said, it's just it's just sad that when it doesn't happen because they're kids, man. They don't they're
so innocent. They don't know.
And I know most people have never seen it, nor do you want to see it, but to see photos of a child, autopsy photos of somebody that's been abused, I mean, it literally just it breaks your heart. Just their little hands, and you see a little kid, they're so tiny, but they have bruises, and it's just terrible.
No, speaking of that, did you see the new Netflix documentary on
the case in California?
What is his name? Fernandez?
Gabriel Fernandez. Yes.
Oh,
I started watching that.
I love watching documentaries, and I don't even think it's because I'm pregnant. Like I had to step away. Like I needed to take a breath, like a breather from it.
I know.
Unspeakable.
And they showed in that documentary, they showed the autopsy photos.
No warning, which.
And and that's the kind of stuff, if you do a child abuse resulting in death case, and I've represented, more than I can even remember, but you see those little things, and it's like, you got a client that, is a grown man beaten up on a little kid, and you're just like, really? You couldn't pick on somebody your own size? Like, really? And who would, obviously my kids are grown, but I remember when it's like, man, if they don't stop crying, like, I got to set them down and count to 10 kind of thing. But they're little kids, man. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know how people do it. I just don't know what would let them think that it's okay. And, I don't know.
Well, it's crazy when you see bad parents. I don't know if you've heard this, and I don't know if it's true, but apparently we are born with two fears, which is loud noises and the fear of falling. And so if you think about the fears you accumulate as an adult, as a person, and kids that are abused and all the fears that are instilled into them by their caretakers, their parents, that are unnecessary, things that we're not born with intrinsically, it's really sad because you just imagine their life without that. I don't know. I had a really bad childhood. Terrible. So when I hear about things like that, it affects me in a way that I really can't describe. But I just can't imagine. I can't imagine. I was looking at the man that hurt that little boy, Gabriel, and his mother almost, even though her boyfriend was a bigger guy and he's the one that got the death sentence, she just had so much evil just oozing out of her being. I can't. People that hurt kids, I have no.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a video that we put up, and it was an old case that we did, and this is, probably 2003 or 4. So it was a long time. Mm-hmm. And it was a case that got a lot of attention here in Denver when it happened because it was like on Christmas Day or something, and they'd taken the small child. And I got the case. I was, young attorney, like, give me, I'll take that case. And ultimately, ABC televised it, and they televised the jury deliberations as well. But it was involving the death of a small child. And it's up on our channel here where you can watch it. But in that particular case, the boyfriend, just abused this child, just abused her. And like I said, it's just this little kid. But the whole point that the district attorney prosecuted was because they just thought the mom knew about it and didn't do anything about it. It was completely nonchalant. And that was one of the hardest things we had to do to be able to present to trial was make you personable, likable. And sometimes that's difficult. And, as a defense attorney, some of the hardest cases to get a fair and impartial jury on is the ones where it involves a child, whether it be sexual abuse or whether it's a child abuse resulting in death case, because people just don't. They're like, I can't imagine how could anybody hurt a child or let a child be hurt. You would go, even strangers go out of the way to protect a child.
Right.
So they're just bad cases.
You in here, obviously, in the prisons, if you are in there for hurting a child or rape or whatever, you are ostracized. You need to be protected because people will hurt you. Even criminals have a sense of morality when it comes to those.
No, there's a code. There's a code in prison.
Yeah.
And then the hierarchy. If you are a rapist or somebody who has hurt a child, whether through abuse or sexual abuse, you literally, your days are numbered. I mean, they're going to make life, you may make it, but they're going to make life very miserable for you in there.
As they should. Sorry, I have no empathy for those people.
We've had clients all the time who are like, hey, can you send me my paperwork, like a copy of the minimus, which is, the court's orders to the Department of Corrections. But could you modify it to maybe not show that particular charge? It's like, yeah, no, can't do that. They're like, man, people want to see my paperwork. They think I did this to a kid, and they're going to kill me. I'm like, I know, but what can I do? They got to go check themselves into protective custody because there's still that hierarchy. Because most of the people in prison, probably most of them didn't have a great childhood, and there was somebody that was perping on their little sister or perping on them, and so they're like, they know how it affects people, and I don't think the people that perpetrate on people like that realize the emotional damage. The physical stuff, that can heal, but it's the psychological damage that lasts forever, and people don't realize that.
Yep. Yeah.
I had cases where we were trying to select a jury. And one time we went through 60-plus jurors we were talking to them individually based upon something in their questionnaires. And I remember there was this woman in there, had to have been in her 70s. And the question was, she's been a victim of sexual assault. And this woman, literally, you could just see the emotion being brought back to her where she literally was like, I haven't thought about this in years, but I'm here to do my civic duty as a juror. And now you brought up all these motions that I've literally blocked out. And, we're of course all like, okay, she can go. She's excused. But it never goes away. And that's what I think most people don't get. And I've seen that as a criminal defense attorney. I think I'm probably more sensitive to it than most people, is that stuff doesn't go away. You can block it out. You can go to a bunch of therapy. But people remember that stuff. And it pops back into your head when you least expect it.
Yeah.
So, and I felt so sorry for that woman. I've literally had people who said, haven't thought about this, or and so it's, and you're there protecting, you're doing your job, and people don't, you try to be, and most people as a defense attorney, you try to be sensitive to everybody. It really is. There's sometimes you have to go do that vicious cross-examination on somebody.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you want to look like a good guy. I'm here to get the truth out. And you have to be sensitive to that stuff, because if people don't like you, I mean, nobody comes anywhere in jury duty or anything like that without, they don't live in a vacuum. So you have to be sensitive to all of those things.
Well, I noticed you even mentioning that aspect of being an attorney when you're talking about Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
And some things that you say, people are offended by. And you do mention, like, someone's going to be offended today, like 7 or 8 people. And I get it, but you're also speaking factually as far as the law is concerned. And, I don't know. I find that aspect interesting. And how do you, as who you are and what you do, and as a person with obviously a moral compass, how do you deal with that? Or do you just have this defense, not defense mechanism, but this, you could just kind of roll it off, like you're used to people kind of being mean, rude? I don't know.
I think you just have to get used to it in this particular job, that you just can't care about what other people think. Because I've had more people throughout my days that are like, "Oh my God, you're a terrible, you're a defense attorney. You're a horrible human being." Oh, but by the way, my brother's got this case. Do you think you can help him out? That happens quite often. And you just do what you got to do. I mean, you as an attorney, you do what you have to do to zealously represent your client. And that may be sometimes asking the question, the elephant in the room question. It's a question that nobody wants to ask, but it's a question that has to be asked so we can get to the truth.
Yeah.
And, but you can do it politely. I get, one of the biggest criticisms I get in my comments.
What
How
is it?
can you say that refer to him as a gentleman? Like,
yeah,
I'm not holding him out as like he's a distinguished gentleman, but that's how you talk in court. One person talks, the judge listens, then he listens to the other side. You refer to opposing counsel, it's the district attorney, the United States attorney, Mr. or Miss so-and-so.
the decorum.
There's the decorum, and that's what I so love about being in court. I was in trial last week, and it was in federal court, and there's
You did
judge.
amazing, by the way, right? You won. Or not to interrupt you, but
No, it was a huge victory.
Yeah.
The federal prosecutors have a 98% win rate in federal court, because the feds usually don't take a case unless it's nice and pretty and wrapped up with a pretty bow on top. They think they can just prove it easily. State, because they build cases. They go and they indict people. State, it's like, oh, we tripped over a body. Oh, somebody robbed a house. We should probably go investigate this. So they don't usually have all the resources, and they're kind of working on the fly really fast. The feds, though, they build a case. And so to walk my client when, like I said, they have a 98% victory rate up there, it was pretty good. And the last time I was in front of this judge, I won too on very similar type of circumstances. And so it was nice. But what I love about federal court is there's still the decorum of a courtroom versus you go to state court and you have 80 cases set on the docket at 8:30, and you're trying to scramble to get your case called next, and trying to negotiate, go over paperwork. Federal court, it's just you're one case on the docket when you show up there. The courts have staff. They've read your briefs. They know the issues. This particular judge...
I didn't know that.
Oh, this particular judge, when he does the oath, he swears people in. He'll stand up and he'll say, "Attention in the courtroom, please." And if somebody's back around doing something, he'll literally stop and say, "Attention in the courtroom, please." And it's not because he thinks it's important that he's talking, but that he realized we're doing important business and this oath means something.
Sure.
And the decorum, it's not meant to say, oh, look, we're high and mighty, we're important, but these are important proceedings, so let's give some dignity and respect to the proceedings versus next case. All right, get you in, get you out. It's just a different world. I love going to federal court. It's what you think of when you go to law school and you think you're going to practice law. Big grand courtrooms, judges that are incredibly smart, that get the issues, that aren't afraid to rule in your favor. And it's not like they're trying to get elected again on their next round at the election when their retention cycle is up. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of that, the case that you, I don't know if it was for your 80,000 subscribers. You did the interview with that
Leland
he
Richardson.
Passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, Leland Richardson.
Was that a federal case, or was that
that was a state homicide case? Yeah,
okay.
State first degree murder case. And
I listened to that.
I really liked Leland.
He seems so likable, by the way.
He was a good guy. He was successful in business. It's just one of those cases where you're in the wrong place, the wrong time, with the wrong people, and your whole world can be turned upside down.
So scary.
And he talks about in that interview where we butted heads. Like, what are you doing for me? You show up for court and you don't say anything, and I'm like, nothing to say, Leland.
I found it interesting that he did say that you just need to trust your attorney, and you don't necessarily give a play-by-play because it might change daily, weekly, like the strategy.
Yeah.
That was really interesting to me. I didn't necessarily know.
Yeah, I like when he said that, particularly in hindsight, in retrospect, after going through the proceedings. It was like, all right, you got to trust what my attorney's telling me, because no attorney's going in there to not do a good job for their client. If they are, let's get rid of them. Yeah. They're going in there to zealously represent your client. And, things do change. I mean, I always tell people, I will give you the best advice I possibly can with the information that I have at hand right now. But that opinion may change based upon new information that comes about. So don't say, well, you said this. I did, but now it's different because things have changed. It's just like life. You make a decision and you think, all right, we're going well, but little hiccup in the road. Nothing ever goes as planned.
No.
And
it doesn't.
it never goes as planned. But what do? You adjust. You make the best decision you can at the time that you have with the information you have, and you adjust accordingly. So.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask you one more thing. Besides To Kill a Mockingbird, what else got you interested in what you do? Was it just wanting justice for people, wanting to just learn more about the law?
Well, my originally I thought I wanted to be a pilot in the military, and I was in a commissioning program, and I hurt myself. I had to have surgery on my shoulder, and they NPQ'd me. And so I was working for a law firm in college. I started out as a runner. Literally, I was like, back then everything had to be, people hand-delivered stuff. They didn't email or Dropbox. It was, law firm had like their own in-house runner to go do this. Go pick up my lunch. Go wash my car. Like, okay, I mean, this is good money, and it's relatively warm, temperature-controlled environment. This isn't bad.
Yeah.
And so I got to see lawyers do their thing. And I was like, I could do this. And they did litigation, which I thought was really interesting. And when I saw litigation, I was like, oh, yeah, this would be good. And I remember when I was in law school, they're like, well, how long do you really get to do your own cases? And they were like, well, maybe 5 years you'll be able to handle cases on your own. And I was like, wow. I'm not going to wait 5 years to do that. So I had, like I said, I'd been in a commissioning program with the Marine Corps, and I was prior enlisted in the Marines. And so I literally called them up because I was just exhausted from law school. I was literally working full time, taking most of my classes at night so that I could, live. I was married. My son was born my last year of law school. And so I look back and I don't know how I did it. I literally would get up about 4:30 in the morning, go to the office to study before work started, work all day, leave by 3 o'clock so I could go to the library, study some more for class, take classes, get home by 10 o'clock, and go home and read, and then start it all over again. I look back and I don't know how I possibly did that.
A lot.
And really the best grade I ever got in law school was in trial practice. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So I was like, I think I want to be a trial attorney. And so I called the Marine Corps. They said, yeah, but you got to go through officer candidate school all over again. Okay, fine. You got to do the basic school, which was a 6-month, basically infantry officer course all over again. I'm like, oh, okay, let's go do it. And then I got to Naval Justice School. And then I got to my first duty station, and I literally was like, here are your cases. Boom. Go do great things. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I mean, you think you know it when you get out of law school, but when you get out of law school, you know just enough to be dangerous. And so there's a huge learning curve. But what I figured out was, hey, I was pretty good at this. And people started asking me, hey, I got this really bad case. Could you help me out? And I was a prosecutor for a while and was a defense attorney, but defense attorney was just fun. And in the military, you have a certain level. Although they accused of doing stuff, it's usually stupid stuff. It's not like the stuff in the civilian world where it's just, there's a lot of evil stuff that takes place. People in the military can still do bad things, but they at least pass that threshold of, being able to get in, be enlisted or become an officer. They've passed those screening qualifications. Whereas some people in the public, they're just like evil. I mean, it's just the way it is. There's some people in the world, I mean, not often, not everybody, but there are evil people in the world.
100%.
And so I started doing it, and I was like, man, this is fun. And I mean, I knew I wanted to do litigation. I didn't think I'd ever do criminal work. I only took criminal law because it was on the bar exam, my last semester in law school. I was like, let's do criminal work. But it's where you learn how to be a great litigator. You will learn really quick whether litigation is for you. Because I've always said, anybody can be a lawyer. I mean, anyone can go to law school and get your law degree.
Look at Kim Kardashian. She's trying.
She's trying. Hey, Kim, call me. We'll help you out. And then you have, litigation. I mean, there's corporate work. And, we do some corporate work, and I like to think I know what to, look for and all that kind of stuff. But it's not that exciting. Like, oh, should this be a comma or semicolon? And there's actually tons of case law where people put in a semicolon where it should have been a comma or a colon, and they're interpreting, well, this refers back to that. I mean, it's crazy. I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I'd rather stick a hot fork in my eye. And civil litigation, it's not that fun because they never go to trial. Rarely do they go to trial. But criminal, you are in there really fast, like go forth, and you'll learn. Not everybody can be a trial attorney. It takes, I like to think that, I mean, it's a little bit of, you have to have a little bit of personality, a little bit of an ego. You still got to be searching for the truth because it's not all about you. It's about the client and the truth. But it's, not everybody can be a criminal defense attorney. When they bring in the guy accused of doing terrible things to, women and children, and you're the guy saying, I'm here for him. And it's kind of like, the mama bear standing in front of the stroller. It's like, you may get him, but you're going to have to come through me first. Okay. Yeah. If you guys are reasonable, maybe we can resolve this. But if you're going to be unreasonable, I'm going to make you crawl over glass to get a conviction. And, it takes a toll on you. It really does. As I used to hear from my ex-wife all the time, you're here, but you're not here because you're off thinking about a case. How do you turn it off? Like
Yeah.
you're sitting you're sitting somewhere, and all of a sudden you're like, ooh, hold on, let me write this down. I just had this thought a second, but so I don't forget it. And so it's the kind of thing where it just, I don't know. I equate it to, as a young attorney, you'd see the worst case come up on the news, and I think you knew you wanted to be a defense attorney, or like, oh yeah, when you're like, ooh, I hope I get that case. How could I get that case? Because it's like, I think like even a quarterback, like, coach, put me in for the big game.
Sure.
The more heinous, the better.
The challenge.
Or when exactly. When you win the case that nobody thought you could win, like last week. I mean, people are not going to win that. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to win it. But then you get into trial psychosis, all right? You're like, oh yeah, other than the DNA, the confession, and the videotape of the crime taking place, they've got nothing, all right? I got this. Because you have to, believe it in your mind that you're going to be able to, convince the jury that you can win. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you don't. But when I got in the military, I was like, man, this is really fun. I just like going to the courtroom. I don't like sitting in an office. I sit in the office for a couple of days. I was like, I got to go to the courthouse. I get more done walking through the courthouse. Hey, DA, what are we going to do on this case? Oh, I got what you sent me. I can change the offer. I can do this. Oh, we're going to trial. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just like the fast-paced excitement of it all, I think.
That makes sense.
That's how I got into it. But I never thought I was actually going to do it. Someone told me when I was a young kid, it's like, ooh, that'd be cool to be an Atticus Finch. But I didn't think I'd actually ever be a criminal defense lawyer. I thought, I'm going to want to go make a ton of money being a securities lawyer or something.
Yeah. Well, obviously you're good at it. I mean, even I think it was the one case of the man that passed away, but you said like sometimes you don't file certain motions where like motion to dismiss or like, like you just need to know those things. I would never know any. Obviously.
Well, yeah, because everybody,
smart.
the notorious motion to dismiss. Clients, when are you going to file a motion to dismiss? Well, on what grounds? Well, lack of evidence. Well, that's a question for the jury to decide. This case that we just had last week, I filed no motions in the case. I was like,
that's one. Okay.
Let's bring it on. Like, we were sitting in court. Speedy trial was coming up. We probably could have got it pushed out, but I knew, like, my best shot at winning was we need to go as quick as possible. And the judge threw out March 31st, and the U.S. attorney already had a trial date that day. And I'm like, well, I can take it, Your Honor. Bring in somebody else. I'm good. They're fungible. Let them bring them in. And then the judge said, March 2nd. It was like 2 weeks away at the time. And I was like, I could accept that, Your Honor. Didn't file a single motion, just said, bring it on, let's go. The U.S. attorney's like, we don't know what your defense is going to be. What's your defense? I'm like, I don't have to tell you. Good luck. Yeah. You always have to prove identification. I'm just like, wrong guy, not my guy. They had 3 witnesses saying it was my guy that was there. Not guilty.
Wow. 3 witnesses. That's crazy.
3 witnesses saying, yeah, that was the guy that was there. And, looking at minimum 10 to life in prison. And my guy's like, nope, not doing it. Not taking any deal. Let's go do this thing. And that's the kind of thing where you learn over 25 years. It's like my best case is now, don't file any motions, because I think I've said this before, is that the government is like a big, huge steamroller.
Like a steamroller, yeah.
Once it get, it's kind of slow getting going, but once it gets going, you don't want to step in front of it because they have all the resources. When it says the United States of America versus your little defendant.
Very dramatic.
The DEA they can call the FBI. They can call the marshals. They have all their labs. Any police agency in the world is going to help them out. And it's you and your client. They're just kind of sitting there like, okay, nope, didn't do it. Bring it on. And you win. Oh, it's the best feeling ever.
I bet. You look so proud.
I love it. I just love winning, particularly in federal court, because they're just so rare. They really, really are. So, anyway.
Good job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I feel like I did all the talking. I feel so bad.
No, this is a mutual conversation.
Okay. Well, so
I'm fascinated. I watch your channel because I'm fascinated by your perspective, like attorneys' perspectives on cases. And
yeah, some people, like the lovely Miss Kristen says, "Oh my God, you can't tell people that. You scare them." But I was like, people need to know this stuff,
yeah.
Like this is the real world. I mean, it happens. It'd be nice if we could all live in our little bubbles. And, when you have kids, you want your kids to live in a bubble. I want my kids to live in a little bubble.
I know.
You don't want anything bad to happen to them. You don't want them to know anything that's bad to happen to them. But you also want them to be a realist when it comes to the world out there, that they're bad people and they're people that will take advantage of you, and there's con men, and
Right.
you just have to, there's a bubble with a little dose of reality, so they don't run off to college and just be like, oh my God, they're completely overwhelmed by it and they don't want to come out of their dorm rooms or something.
Overwhelmed and vulnerable and naive. Yeah.
So you're in Arizona now, but it sounds like you've lived kind of around to lots of places.
I lived in
California.
California and then also Kirkland for a while.
Okay.
That's about it. Yeah.
What'd you think of California?
I loved it. I lived in Westlake Village, so it was maybe like 30 minutes away from Malibu. Really small city, really safe, if you will.
Sure.
Nothing like Los Angeles. I hate Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I loved it. And then when I lived in Kirkland, I loved it even more because everything was walking distance. I would take my dog every morning to, is it Puget Sound? Like the water area. It was just beautiful. So.
Yeah. No, I my daughter went to school out there. I've been to California many, many times, but it's so crowded and it's so expensive. I mean,
it's definitely, it's very expensive, but where I lived, it was not crowded at all.
The only redeeming quality of California is the weather.
The weather
constant 76 degrees. It's perfect.
Yes. I mean, Arizona, it's like I'm pregnant, so I'm already hot. Like always, my boyfriend's always like, "It's cold. Why do you have the fans on and the windows open?" And I'm like, I'm burning up. But yeah, California, I loved it because it would get just warm enough to like wear shorts, but at nighttime you still need like a little throw because it's chilly and just perfect.
The weather was good, but I was glad when my daughter graduated from school and left there.
Yeah.
Because it was so damn expensive.
Colorado is also beautiful.
Colorado is the best kept secret ever.
I have friends that live out there, and I have seriously considered I've never been, but I want to go. I hear it's beautiful.
Colorado is the best kept secret. I'm a native of Colorado. I have a place in South Carolina. I love South Carolina. It is my adopted home state just because the low country, it's so relaxed and chill and relaxed. But Colorado is the best. It never gets super hot. There's no humidity.
Oh, okay. So like Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are super dry in Arizona, but it gets so hot, like furnace hot. Colorado doesn't get like that. And everybody thinks we're a frozen tundra. We're anything but that. It's gorgeous here. Most of the time. And even if it rains or snows, it's sunny the next day. And so let everybody think that it's frozen tundra. We have coronavirus everywhere.
I've not heard that.
Don't come here. Because the problem is everyone leaves California and they sell their little, bungalow for $2 million and they drive the prices up here. Where it's like, what are you thinking? That house is not worth $1.5 million. Like on a good day, maybe 600,000, but they just are so impressed by what they can get here that and it's just crowded. It's just crowded now because that's the only bad thing is everybody's moving here because it's so great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I want to go.
Yeah. Well, if you ever come, look us up. We're here. Okay.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Why
don't you give us a plug for your channel and tell everyone what you do, and we'll put a link to it as well.
Well, my main channel, I cover missing person cases, unsolved and solved true crime cases. Sometimes conspiracy theory videos, but mostly just true crime. It's Amber Loves Mystery. So
No, I like it, and I also like how you say it on when your channel is that, hey, I'm not a detective, I'm not a journalist, but I do everything I can to be accurate. And if I make a mistake, kind of like if I make a mistake, let me know, but do it nicely, do it politely. You don't have to call me an idiot because I mispronounced something.
Oh,
Fine.
that would be nice. That would be nice if people call me an idiot. The things that I get called are just not very nice sometimes.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about having to go to court is if you have an opposing counsel and they're like the biggest jerk on the phone, okay, we should have the judge resolve it. See you in court. And you can say, oh, the opposing counsel, particularly in civil cases, civil attorneys are it just drives me bonkers. Yeah. Criminal, they don't get that way. I don't know, there's something about it. But it's easy to say something to somebody when you're behind the keyboard. It's another thing to actually say it to somebody's face. And that's what I love about going to court. It's like, all right, why don't you tell the judge what you told me or called me on, that let's see who's right.
It's so interesting because no one has ever spoken to me the way that I get spoken to in the comments on the internet. People get this false bravado, I guess,
Yeah, there was a guy, I think, when I first started my channel. And at first it used to kind of like bug me when someone would say, oh my gosh, your channel sucks. So I'd go look at their channel and be like, oh, wow, look at you. I should follow you because you have like 6 followers or something.
I know. What I mean? You want to respond so bad at first.
And now it's just like, whatever, don't care. It is what it is.
It takes a little bit to get to that point, though. It really does. There's still some days where I'm like, I like write out a response and I'm like, no.
Don't send it. Just let it go.
Just walk away.
Just let it
go.
But
sometimes it feels good to type it out and then just walk away.
Yeah, but I like a good intellectual conversation where somebody, I think today, was like, hey, you're wrong about this. I think this would be a great appellate issue. And I'm like, well, I appreciate your opinion and your thought, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. It was referring to the Harvey Weinstein case. Oh. But it's like, I like a good argument. I like good intellectual stimulation. But, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. You're a defense attorney. Your lawyers are all the same. Really?
Lawyers are liars.
Yeah. Like, whatever. Like, is that all you got? Tell me why I'm wrong legally. Tell me what I'm wrong factually. What fact am I not considering so that we can do that, So
give me some case law.
Exactly. So, well, thank you for taking the time. Amber Loves Mystery. We'll put a link. Congratulations.
I feel so honored, honestly. I'm such a big fan.
No, I
really am.
We watch lots of stuff around here. Like, she's good. I like your style. I like the way you just kind of lay it out there, and these are the facts. And that's what's important, the facts, not just something so outlandish that, the UFOs must have abducted somebody.
Right.
No. We like facts. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll do it again, and maybe we'll see you at CrimeCon. All right?
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully. All right. Thanks.